As we begin the new year, you note on the church's calendar, the liturgical calendar, it doesn't say New Year's Day on the church calendar, January 1st. It says it's the Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God. That's how the new year begins. Greetings and God's blessing to you. This is Fr.J.Corapi with another episode of Weekly Wisdom. Hard to believe that we've already gone through 8 episodes and now we're about to embark on the 9th episode of Weekly Wisdom. Let me give you a little preview before I jump into that, though, of what's coming in January. I'm going to do a mini-series in January. It's based on a teaching that is one of the oldest ones I've ever given, and actually one of the most important, I think. Certainly, I don't know how many dozens of times I've preached and taught this, but it's on the relationship among truth, freedom, and conscience. 3 important, essential elements for the spiritual life: truth, freedom, conscience. So the first week in January we'll do one on truth, and the second week we'll do that an exposition on freedom, what authentic human freedom is and isn't. And then the third week we'll do one on conscience, and then the final episode in January will be on the relationship among those 3 things of truth, freedom, and conscience. Well, we are hard to believe we've come to the end of another year, the beginning of a new year. You know, our faith in a very real way is a religion of new beginnings. We're always renewed in the practice of our religion. And as we end a year, well, we end a chapter, certainly. We end a chapter in the history of our life. And we open a new chapter with the new year. I'm going to speak to you today on spiritual ideas for a new year. You know, every year most of us have resolutions for the new year, and that's a good thing. You want to try to improve in all areas, make your life better, more productive, more holy. And so I'm going to share with you some very basic ideas. You know, the good thing, the best thing about an idea, if it's a good idea, is you put it in practice. It doesn't do you a bit of good to let it go in one ear and out the other. One thing is absolutely certain. Time is a gift. And in many respects, time is all we have. God gives us the gift of time. What do we give back to him? It's an investment in a sense. God makes an investment in each one of us. Gives us time. Might be a little time in the case of some people, might be a relatively long time. You know, whether you live to be 10 days old or 100 years old. God gives a gift of time to each unique, precious, and unrepeatable human being. And quite honestly, we will be called to give an account of how we use that time. So, as a new year dawns, what are we going to do? We have to do an analysis of your spiritual life. That's you know, people do this concerning their financial situation. Certainly, your financial situation is of some importance. You have to support a family. You may have kids going to college and so forth. So you take stock of things. You review things. You step back and look. You say, let's see, where am I financially? Or where am I professionally in your career, your job, your trade? But more important than any of that, and there's some importance to those other things. I'm not saying there's not, But the most important thing is your spiritual life. Because let's face it, at the end, when we check out, when we pass from time to eternity, that's the only thing that's going to matter. You know, how you spend your time now will determine how you spend your eternity eventually. That's how important it is. So we have some ideas for a more spiritual new year. Now, as we begin the new year, you note on the church's calendar, the liturgical calendar, it doesn't say New Year's Day on the church calendar, January 1st. It says it's the Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God. That's how the new year begins for us as Catholics. It's the Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God. Remember, we're still in the octave of Christmas. And so we're still to be celebrating the great feast of Christmas. But on January 1st, every year starts off with that solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God. How little the Mother of Jesus is honored in your average place on New Year's Day. I rather suspect a lot of places the Mother of God takes second place to bowl games. And I don't have anything against football. I like to watch a good football game. Nothing wrong with bowl games. That's great. Make sure your priorities are straight as you begin the new year, January 1st. We honor the Mother of Jesus. You know, Jesus is Lord. He's God. Jesus is God and Son of God. She's his mother. And so we have that beautiful title, Theotokos, or Mother of God. That is a theologically correct title. Someone will imagine, oh, no, God doesn't have a mother. Oh, yes, he does, unless you don't think Jesus is God. Jesus is divine. He's God. She's his mother. We honor her January 1st. You want to have a New Year's Eve party? Fine. Why don't you honor Jesus? We're still in the octave of his birthday. Honor Mary. It's the vigil of that solemnity. We're still at the manger in Bethlehem on January 1st. Every home, by the way, ought to have a nativity scene. You know, in the public sphere, we've misconstrued the intent of the founding fathers, and they want to outlaw manger scenes or nativity scenes in public places. Of course, that's hogwash. You know that, and I know that. That wasn't the intention of the founding fathers. But I'll tell you one thing, you can sure have it inside your home. You can sure do that. Every Catholic home, every Christian home ought to have a place of honor for that manger scene. And the family gather around there for some prayers in the Christmas season. That's a good way to start off the new year. January 1st, the first day of a new year, start it off right, spiritually. Make your home a place where Jesus, Mary, and St. Joseph, the Holy Family, they're right in the center of things on that first day of the year and every day of the year. Second, remember this. Life is a battle. Now, I know I don't have to remind some of you of that. Some of you are just as aware of that as I am. You're aware of it because you have things every day that remind you of that. Life is definitely a battle, especially a spiritual and moral battle. And in order to get through this battle, to be victorious, we need help. And so as an idea for a new year, I want you to cultivate this attitude. Number one, you need God's grace. You can't persevere in the faith, you can't do good day in and day out and avoid evil without the grace of God. So, how do we get that sanctifying grace? Through the sacraments. So, as part of your New Year resolution, or your new life in Christ this coming year, Receive the sacraments regularly. Now, I know you know that. I know most of you, I hope you do anyway. You go to Mass on Sunday. Now, if you're elderly, you're shut in, you're in the hospital, nursing home, you have a good reason. I understand you can't get to Mass. You do the best you can. You pray. But for those of us who are blessed that we can get out, we can go to church, do it. Do it. And you don't want to miss Mass on Sundays and holy days of obligation. That's a mortal sin, unless you have good reason. Then of course, it can be excused. You need God's grace. Go to confession regularly. So, I don't have any big sins. You're not immaculately conceived, and neither am I. We need the grace of God through the sacraments. Confession. Go at least once a month, whether you need it or not. Be well disposed. In order to maximize grace, you must have a daily prayer life. You must have a daily prayer life. Pray every day. And don't just assume it. Set time aside. Have a schedule. Set time aside. Allocate time for prayer. We've got a coalition, a spiritual coalition to fight this battle. We're not alone. We have the angels and the saints. So cultivate a personal relationship with your guardian angel. That's a doctrine of the faith, by the way. That's not some pious fiction. The fact that every human being has a guardian angel given to them from the first moment of their existence, that's part of the doctrine of the faith. Cultivate a relationship with your guardian angel, with your patron saint, with all the saints. I don't know about you, but I need all the help I can get. I need that coalition. Okay, so remember that. We're at war, and our battle's not against flesh and blood, as St. Paul says. We need spiritual help. This new year, cultivate that relationship with the angels and the saints. Very important. Number 3. Now, this is an easy one, but you ought to do it. You ought to do it. Physically, make a prayer room or prayer corner in your home. Have a place in your home set aside where you can go. Dedicate that space to God and to prayer. Now, your home may not be big enough. You might not have enough rooms to take a whole room and make it into a little chapel or prayer room. Well, I understand that. Okay, you don't have to. Take a corner of a room, though. Take a corner of a room. Put a little table with a nice embroidered cloth, like an altar cloth type thing. A crucifix, statue of Our Lady, your favorite saint, whatever it is. Go there on a regular basis and pray. Physically make that prayer. It should be a quiet place. Don't put the prayer room in a corner of the baby's room or one of the kids' room. That's like let's put a prayer room in the corner of chaos. No, you take in the quietest room in the house. You make that little prayer corner. I remember my grandmother had it in the corner of the living room. The living room was less used in those days than, say, the kitchen. So early in the morning, it was a very quiet place, and she would go there to pray. Number 4, make a very serious effort this year. Make a very serious effort to learn your faith this year. And I'll guarantee you, if you think you know it, think again. Some of you do. Most Catholics don't know their faith. What are the 10 Commandments? That's the question I'd ask an 8-year-old child, a 7-year-old child. So just stop right now and ask yourself, what are they? What's the first, second, third? What's the 7th commandment? Aha, you don't know? You don't know? That's basic. Learn your faith. We have the great gift of the Catechism of the Catholic Church. If you don't have a copy, by all means, get it. Dedicate 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. We'll give you a couple days off. 5 days a week, that's all. 15 minutes a day to study the Catechism. I've done a series from the very beginning. I knew how important this was for people. And so I did a lot of work on it. I did a series. It's 48 hours. It's broken down into actually 50 lectures that synthesizes the Catechism of the Catholic Church. If you go through my 50 lectures on the Catechism of the Catholic Church prayerfully, invoking the Holy Spirit, go through it once, go through it again, and then go through it again. You will learn your faith. I guarantee it. You'll learn your faith. So important. Make a serious effort this year to learn your faith. The best way to do it, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to. Use the Catechism of the Catholic Church. It is a sure norm for teaching the faith, as John Paul the Great told us, a sure norm for teaching the faith. 5, make a conscious and willed effort to do something for the poor and the less fortunate than yourself. Jesus said, I was sick, and you visited me. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was homeless, you housed me. I was hungry, you fed me. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And they said, well, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or homeless or sick or a stranger and provide for your needs? And Jesus says, insofar as you did it for the least of my brethren, you did it for me. And insofar as you neglected to do it for the least of my brethren, meaning the poor and the disenfranchised, the elderly, the sick, and so forth, insofar as you neglected to take care of them, you neglected to take care of me. You see, Jesus united himself with all the poor and the suffering. We need to care about this. This year, do something serious, significant, for those less fortunate than yourself. It's a mandate. It's a gospel mandate. We have to. We have to. Visit the sick, shut-ins, people in nursing homes, maybe in your own family. So many elderly people are alone today. So many of them live in sad, lonely circumstances. No one to pay any attention to them, to comfort them. That's a crime. We need to do it. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? If Catholics and Christians don't care for these people, who will? No one will. And so this year, do that. You know, maybe it means dedicating an hour of your time to go to the local soup kitchen and feed the hungry, right? Maybe it means going to the hospital to volunteer. You know, the candy stripers come to mind. Volunteerism is a very good thing. We need to do this. We need to care for those whose circumstances are not so great. You know, you and I might be there one day. You and I could be sick in the hospital. You and I could be elderly, you know. It's like my grandmother one day. She was 94 in a nursing home. She looked around and said, huh, look at all these old people. Boy, she was the oldest one in the joint. Look at all these old people. She said, I'm the Lone Ranger. She'd outlived everybody, you know. Outlived my grandfather, her 8 brothers and sisters. She was the last one. And I'm sure at times she was lonely. And we visited her. We tried to make her life better at the end. So little acts of kindness go a long, long way. 6, consider helping your parish in one of their programs. Be a lector, Eucharistic minister. You know, over the years I've had letters from people who have qualms about being Eucharistic minister. And I understand where the qualms come from. Certainly the Holy Eucharist is to be treated with the greatest of reverence. Certainly the deacon and the priest and the bishop, they are the ordinary ministers of the Holy Eucharist. Certainly. But you know there are many, many places today where if the priest doesn't have help from the lay people to bring Holy Communion to various places, nursing homes, hospitals, jails, and so forth, the people will not get Jesus in the Eucharist when they need him the most, when they're in distress. Now, are you worthy to handle the Blessed Sacrament? No, you're not, and neither am I, and neither is anybody else. Nobody's worthy. The only one worthy is Jesus, but he shares his life with us. And so if your pastor, priest in your parish needs help, don't be afraid to help him. You know, it may be you have different programs. You might have a ministry to the poor from your parish. Lend a helping hand. It could be in something simple, something humble. My Aunt Mary and my grandmother, they cleaned the floor. You know, they cleaned the rectory. They cleaned the church, right? Scrubbed the floors, right? Cooked for the priest. There's so many things that you can do to help your parish. The parish is the focal point of the church's life, really. The Eucharist, certainly, but the Eucharist, for most of it, that's in the parish. And so the parish is important. Love your local priest. Help him out, if you can. That'd be a great thing to do, and it will help you in your spiritual journey as well. Now, here's a big one, number 7. This is a big one. Pray for priests every day. I'll give you something real concrete. The more concrete a thing is, the more likely you are to do it. If you leave a thing indeterminate, people don't do it. You know, say, oh, well, you must pray. They don't do it. Pray the Rosary every day. I can say that. Take 15, 20 minutes, do it. It's easier to do it. It's a concrete thing, well defined. Well, I'm telling you this. Pray for priests 5 minutes every day. Pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. There's an even more concrete thing. Every day, pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy for priests. Why should you do this? No priest, no Eucharist. And the Eucharist is the source, the center, and the summit of the church's life. No priest, no source of the church's life. No priest, no center of the church's life. No priest, no summit of the church's life. It's that simple. And by the way, that's the devil's end game in these times. Get rid of the priest so you can get rid of the Eucharist. And if you get rid of the Eucharist, you get rid of the power. And the world disintegrates into evil. You need to support your priest through prayer. I'm giving you something concrete now. 5 minutes. Well, I'm busy. You know, people used to say that to me when I'd say, pray the Rosary every day. They say, oh, but Father, I'm busy. I said, you think the Pope's busy? This was back in the days when John Paul was Pope. I used to say this. You know, he prays the whole Rosary every day. You know, not 5 decades, 15, and now 20. No, but you just pray 5 decades. But 5 minutes every day for your priest. Pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy every day for priests. They need your help. We can't do it without you. And I've already mentioned this, but number 8, pray the Rosary every day. Oh, but I don't like the Rosary. Well, it doesn't matter. Just do it. Like the Nike commercial says, right? Just do it. Why? It's powerful. Powerful. It's medicine for the soul. Why? It's the prayer of the gospel. You know, one of the most popular series I ever did was on the Rosary. One of the most popular single talks I ever did was on the power of the Rosary. Why? It's the power of the gospel. When you pray the Rosary, you're praying the gospel, the good news. Jesus is the good news. And that's, so the Rosary, what's the heart of the Rosary? Jesus Christ. Don't believe it? Look at it. Just look at it. Look at meditation on the 20 mysteries, right out of the Gospel. The prayers, Our Father, Hail Mary, where did they come from? The Gospel. You pray the Rosary, you're praying the Gospel. You're praying the good news, Jesus. And so you have power then to do good and avoid evil. So pray the Rosary every day. If you haven't been doing it this year, do that. Remember this. If you are lonely, and a lot of people are, if you're depressed, a lot of people are. You know, I think Prozac is one of the biggest selling drugs in the world. That's a heck of a testimony to the state of the world, by the way. If you're lonely, you're depressed, you're anxious, you have all kinds of emotional difficulties, I sympathize with that. Oh, that's a heavy cross. Maybe you're addicted to something. Remember this. You have to go outside yourself. Don't allow your personal problems, your defects, your sins, your addiction, don't allow that to close in on you and isolate you. Go outside yourself. Help another person. Take your mind off your own problems, and before you know it, you won't have those problems. Or they may be there, but they won't have a hold on you. Why? You went outside of yourself in order to help someone else. So try to do that. Remember that. Don't be self-centered. Be Christ-centered. And if you're Christ-centered, you'll help other people. 10, make a conscious, willed effort to make regular visits to Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. All of our Catholic churches, or at least most of them, have the Blessed Sacrament reserved in the tabernacle. Make a holy hour, if you possibly can. Make a holy hour. It'd be great. Make it every day or as many days as you can. You say, I just don't have an hour. Father, okay, fine. Make a holy minute. Make a holy minute. You don't have an hour. I'll bet you have a minute. Go in the presence of Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. Recollect yourself and tell him that you love him for 1 minute. And I'll bet you then you'll do it for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Then before you know it, by golly, you'll be making a holy hour because you'll be so blessed by it. You know, only when we do this is evil going to be put to rout. We have to become truly Eucharistic-centered people in order to win this victory. And so we come to the end of that segment number 9 in Weekly Wisdom, and we'll jump right into the Spiritual Directions corner. I'm just going to make a continuation of it. We're going to synthesize and condense this. You say, I can't do all 10 of those, Father. Well, okay. You've got to do these then. Do 3. You know, you can handle this. All right, number 1, pray the Rosary every day. This is New Year, do it. And I mean, set a time aside. You say, I get busy, do it early in the morning. Do it early in the morning. Get up 5 a.m. if you have to. I get up 3:30, 4 a.m. Do your prayer first. Do your prayer first. Then no matter what happens throughout the course of the day, no matter how busy you get, you've already done it. And you'll feel a lot better. So pray the Rosary every day. Number 2, study your faith. Study the Catechism of the Catholic Church for at least 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's all. Make a holy hour or a holy minute as many days of the week as you can. If you can do it 7 days a week, great. 5, great. You can do it 3 days a week, wonderful. But spend some time with Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament this year. And so, the Rosary, number 1. Number 2, learn your faith. Number 3, time before the Blessed Sacrament. So as we close another chapter, another year, in the history of our life, we open a new chapter. And that's an exciting thing. That's a great thing. One thing about our religion, it's a religion of new beginnings. And no matter how good or bad, the last chapter was. This one can be the greatest ever. And so let's make that effort as we move into a new chapter, a new year, that will do something beautiful for God. Be something beautiful for God, as Mother Teresa used to say. Well, God bless you. God love you. And goodbye until next time.